Aloha everybody, this is Miguel Gonzalez over at Roots, and today in the Black Belt series I'm very excited to interview Professor Vi Potts, who's here visiting from Florida. And I gotta tell you, Professor, I just had a roll with you, and man, I could see shadows of you, but by the time I was trying to catch something from you, you were gone and you already had me in another compromising position. So my respects to you first for coming out here and teaching all of us and bringing that good vibe. But I mean, tell us what brings you back to Roots, because from what I understand, you have a background here in Hawaii, but you currently live in Florida. Is that correct?
Yes. So I originally started jiu-jitsu like back in the 90s under one of the black belts on Kauai. To my knowledge, one of the first guys that started jiu-jitsu on Kauai. I was about 16 or so. You know, and it was old school jiu-jitsu back then, and I was like the only kid besides my brother, and we used to get smashed all the time. So it was something to do besides surfing. So we trained, and my dad knew the black belt, and that's how we got involved. And we just from there, it just kind of just snowballed into here I am now as a black belt, you know, many years later.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that you're mentioning that, right? Because I mean, we've all seen the explosion of jiu-jitsu come on the scene. So what was it like back then to just have such few black belts and to just have that kind of training?
It was scraps all the time. You know, it was hard trains. I always felt like I had a hard train because I was a kid and I was small and I was fighting adults all the time, you know, and being like both of us, we're small compared to other people in jiu-jitsu, so I feel like that helped me to evolve my jiu-jitsu. You know, as the years progressed, my jiu-jitsu just got better and better, and I focus a lot on my technique, and then I'll add strength to it for my technique.
Interesting. You know, it's you trained with my Professor Joey back in the Cavariña days as well. What was that training like with those, you know, young guns, you know, coming up the ranks and just, I'm sure, looking for that scrap?
It was, and the training was always hard in Hawaii, you know. But we have, even though we show up, you know, we'll run a technique, we'll run a drill, and then when it comes to sparring, it's like you shake hands and it's on. You know, you just spar as hard as you can. As soon as the time's done, you shake hands, hug each other. You know, we have the ultimate respect for our training partners, even for our opponents when we're out in the competition field, you know. And I feel like we push each other to be the best, you know, in jiu-jitsu, whether it's on the mat or off the mat. You know, we're always like pushing each other to be better, you know, to do better, and to have our jiu-jitsu on the mat follow us off and into what we do daily.
Do you feel that those things that you learned earlier in your jiu-jitsu career helped you as you made a move into the mainland and you moved to Florida to train with other kinds of jiu-jiteros out there? Do you think that grit, that fighting you took it from you, and that's helped you to continue to develop your jiu-jitsu?
Yes, when I started, I started strong, and then it was off and on, and as growing up as a kid, you have a lot of distractions, you know, so off and on. And then when I came back, I was on all the way through. And when I came back, I felt like this was the time to come back. That's when it was like the jiu-jitsu had like evolved a lot, you know. And I was like, man, I was so amazed with what the jiu-jitsu was that I said, I'm never gonna stop, you know. I'm just gonna keep on going all the way through.
Interesting. And what would you say? How would you say Florida jiu-jitsu is different than Hawaii jiu-jitsu, or is there a difference where you go?
Nah. I would say like the core of it, or the fundamental, the basics that everybody sees, everybody has it, but people use it in different ways. You know, like I may use something a certain way and you may use something a different way, you know, but the core is there, you know, the core is all there. You know, the difference that I see is there's a lot of competition out there, like a lot of tournaments that you can do to help evolve your jiu-jitsu, your individual jiu-jitsu. But as far as like anything different, not so much.
Interesting. So now fast forward to present day. and you're coming back to visit, and you paid us a visit today and mopped the floor with all of us. And you know, what are your plans now? You were telling me you're going to Kauai now.
Yeah, so we came home and I brought my kids home. The plan was to come home and stay the whole summer, and so the kids, we could see family, because we're way out in Navarre, Florida, and we don't have any family there. You know, it's just me and my wife. My wife is active duty Air Force, and we've been there for 5 years now. And I feel like I need to bring my kids home, because this is where the family is, you know, and to spend time with like Professor Joe, you know, and Junior. You know, we've all trained together on the Cavarinha. 5 years ago, we all used to train together out at West, you know. And I always feel like when I come home, I feel at home, even with the jiu-jitsu, you know, like the vibe is here, the aloha vibe, you know, everybody has respect for everybody, you know, we show up on the mat, we train really hard, but we're also here to improve and not to prove, you know, like, I like to feel everybody's jiu-jitsu and be like, man, when I left, you guys have improved, you know, even though it seems like you said, like I came in and, you know, I train with everybody, you know. My goal is not to beat you, my goal is to help you improve and to help me improve, you know, so I can go back and be like, okay, this is what I need to work on. People doing different things, you know, they use the same technique, but you use it different. Or Professor Joey or Junior, Professor Rod may use it differently, you know, which helps me improve my jiu-jitsu as well as yours.
Right. And that's an interesting philosophy, right? I mean, really using jiu-jitsu to improve not just yourself, but also the person who you're rolling with, right? Giving them pointers and doing that, because at the end of the day, if they get better, then you have to get better as well, right? I mean,
yes.
Iron sharpens iron, what Professor
Yes.
Joey always says.
Yes.
How would you describe your style of jiu-jitsu to somebody who's never rolled with you?
My style is, I like to use like a lot of different things, because I've always like cross-trained. So I'm exposed to a lot of different techniques. You know, a lot of different people use a lot of different things on me. So my jiu-jitsu has evolved a lot, where I don't typically have like one setup. You know, I have multiple setups. You know, I play a lot of different guards. It's kind of confusing most of the time, you know, or I'll take advantage of like little opportunities to improve as well as to help my partner improve. You know, like I'll take advantage of a little, like a micro movement, you know, which will kind of offset them a little bit, which helps me to improve. And then they're like, oh, that's a bad move, so I need to improve, you know. And then we continue that journey all the way to the end of the round, so we can see like how it's going.
You know, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I felt when I was rolling with you, I felt like you were putting very little force into everything. It was just more of the movement itself. You stayed constant in your movement until you got what you wanted, whether it was a sweep or whether it was a situation where you overtook something, but just very, very clinical and methodical. So, I mean, is that something that you've been working a lot to just continue, instead of just, you know, like a lot of people, especially people who are just starting out, they force everything. Is that something that you feel that keeps you less injured, or in less danger of being injured as well?
Yeah, for the most part, I feel like we've all been at that stage when we start. I think it's just how it is when we first start. It's like, oh, you know, everything is strong. We use a lot of force. You know, we don't really have the technique down. But at this stage, for me, I focus a lot on the technique. You know, like a lot of little details, little micro movements here and there, which helps me to progress, you know, until I can already see that I'm gonna get the position, you know. Then that's when I just go boom and I hold the position, you know. And then once I get there, I allow my partner to move, which helps me to move, and I'm constantly moving. By the time they realize that they're a few steps behind, you know, it helps me to see the position and go to the submission, you know. And if nothing else fails, I can always backtrack a little bit back to a different position and then progress again, which helps my partner also, because when I shoot the submission, they're like, oh, I need to escape now. So when they're escaping, I go back into a dominant position, then I go forward again. And I try to keep my energy level flow, you know, so I don't use like a lot of energy. I try to keep it up and down, you know, which helps me.
Interesting. What would be your advice for, let's say, a blue belt who's coming up the ranks and who understands that they are using way too much force? How would you talk to somebody like this and say, and what advice would you give them to kind of just slow things down and analyze things? Because as you know, jiu-jitsu, it's always figuring out a few steps ahead and understanding what the positions and the consequences for everything. So what would be your advice for somebody like that?
I would say, and it depends on my partner that I'm rolling with. For myself, if I was a blue belt at that time, I would gauge it on my partner's energy, which is what I do today. I gauge on my partner's energy. So if we're kind of flowing a little bit, and then things start to get heated, and the fight starts to progress into a lot of energy and a lot of speed, I will try to dictate, to match that, and then dictate the next burst. So when I was a blue belt, I like to drill a lot and to do a lot of sparring, and not every round was really hard round, maybe do a hard round and then backtrack and go back and do a round where slow everything down, and try to see the positions, try to make the grips, try this grip, try that grip, and then try to see how I can offset my partner with just the technique, and then the next round maybe add the technique with strength, and then just keep going from there.
How about in terms of complementing jiu-jitsu with also nutrition and working out? What do you do, Professor, to keep yourself in shape for jiu-jitsu?
What I like to do is I will lift a little bit of weights. Nothing crazy like you see some people do like a lot of weights. You're like, man,
yeah.
So I like to do a little bit of weights, a lot of functional exercising, a lot of movement, some yoga, some calisthenics, everything that's functional that's gonna benefit my jiu-jitsu. Also, not my jiu-jitsu itself, but just what I'm gonna do daily, like outside if I'm just gonna be with the kids or just doing some yard work or something. I like to do a lot of functional stuff, As far as my nutrition, I try to keep it simple, whole foods, limit my processed snacks and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy dessert as well as anybody else.
We all do, right?
Sometimes I go off, like at night I'll eat like a lot of dessert and be like the next morning like, man, I have to go train.
I've been there.
It's too much,
Yeah.
But I just keep everything simple, hydrate.
Yeah.
Keep the nutrition simple. Try not to like go too far and be like, oh man, I need to have like 20 supplements, which
sure,
you don't need to.
Right.
If you keep just your basic, it works out.
Makes sense. What about competition-wise? What's in store for you competition-wise? What are your plans?
So my next one's gonna be Master Worlds coming up at the end of August. That's gonna be my next one. So while I'm here in Hawaii, I'm gonna try and train, cross train everywhere. Just keep my momentum going as a training. Then when I get back to Florida, I'm gonna recalibrate. Of course, they're 5 hours ahead. So take a few days off, reset, and then straight through into Master Worlds. After that, there might be one in late September. I'm not sure which one, and do one there, and maybe two more before December the year is up.
Interesting. You fight light feather? Where do you fight?
I fight light feather. Yeah. So I just shave, not a lot, just a few pounds. I walk around a little bit over light feather, but I just shave a few pounds and then straight in.
Interesting. And any super fights back in Florida you're planning to do anything like that?
I'm not sure yet. I'm really focused on my Master World, so I kind of not really sure about doing a super fight, as it would be close to the Master World.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've won the Master World, so I'm trying to focus on that right now. And just try to do better than I did last year.
What advice, speaking about competition itself, what advice do you give people who perhaps still are looking to shake off those jitters that they get right before they take those mats or as they're trying to make weight? How do you handle all that pressure?
So I would have to say, for myself, it took a lot to get rid of those jitters. What I did was I trained and I competed. The more that I showed up to those competition mats, it helped me to manage that anxiety. And what I like to do, and I've always done, is I like to do a really good warm up. I'll show up 2 hours early, and an hour before my match, I'll check my weight, then I'll go outside and warm up. Get a sweat going, kind of have everything settled down. Stretch, put the music on, and then step on a weight and get into the bullpen. And then just try to keep focused. Try not to like get distracted by looking at who's in the box with you, you know, because that will definitely get into your head, you know. And then while you're there, just remember why you're there, you know, and just remember, like, look, I came to the competition, win or lose, the opportunity, you took the step to get there, you know, that's a huge opportunity, you know. You're in there. Like I tell my son, I said, I don't care if you win or lose, you know. Winning, of course we want to win,
Right.
but you're here, you're injury free, you know, you're healthy, and you're ready to fight, you know. So,
and it's interesting, right? Because a lot of us confuse that, right? A lot of us confuse that if it's not a win, then it's a complete defeat, or it's a complete situation where we didn't get what we wanted. But there's also the smaller steps, right? Like understanding like how to conquer those particular nerves, how to make sure you're doing the best possible job in showcasing what you worked so hard to do. So those are smaller wins, right? That help you ultimately get to that goal of doing that, right? But it's, like you said, it's something that perhaps for most of us, it's not just gonna happen in the first tournament that we compete on. And so having that additional experience in tournaments helps out a lot.
yes.
Yeah, so. Well, Professor, what are your, so you telling me you're gonna go to Kauai, you're gonna spend some time with family and friends here.
Yes.
Where are you gonna be training over there?
On Kauai, so I'll train with some of the old school guys that I used to train with back in the day. New Breed Jiu-Jitsu. There's another school that I trained on the south side down in Poipu. Julian is the professor down there, and there's also I stop in at Isaki's, which is on the east side.
Of course, yeah. And you know, Kauai guys, they are, I mean, those guys are relentless.
Yes.
And I love their spirit and I love their friendship. But I mean, once you start shaking hands and go, it's a war, man.
Yes.
It really is, and I appreciate that. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that. Any other messages for the people that follow? Where can people follow you on social media, Professor?
So my Instagram is Kikaha, so it's KE with the underscore, KA with the underscore, and HA underscore. You can follow me there. I have some content on there. Other than that, I'm pretty much everywhere in Hawaii. When I'm in Hawaii, I normally stay on my home island on Kauai.
Yeah.
And I usually hang on the west side, but you know, Hawaii, to me, Hawaii has like some really good jiu-jitsu, you know. It's just really hard for people in Hawaii to get out, you know, with the cost and everything, you know, but Hawaii is always gonna be home, you know. When I come home, it's an amazing feeling.
Well, and you can tell you wear Hawaii in your heart anyway, wherever you go and represent. So that's awesome. I can feel that from your spirit, and I mean, it's definitely, like I said, it was an honor to definitely roll with you and learn from you, Professor, because yeah, it's like we appreciate people coming in and sharing the knowledge and passing it along so freely like you did today.
Yeah.
So it's completely, definitely an honor. So
yeah, so my for me, my mentality is to help others improve, you know. So I take that opportunity since I've been out in America, you know, to learn as much as I can, you know, and to bring the knowledge back home, and, you know, and share with everybody, you know. And some people think like, oh man, no, I don't wanna show him this or I don't wanna show him that. But man, how can we improve if I don't show you? You can't help me improve, and you won't improve too, you know. So I need to share my passion, you know, and share with everybody.
And I would imagine too, with that mentality, with that philosophy, it just becomes so much an easier situation, right? Because you have no secrets. You're showing everything. You're an open book. And you know, maybe some people that roll with that reservation of, I don't want to show you everything because then you're going to beat me at it, right? It's like you're always carrying like a chip on your shoulder, if you will.
But how can you improve?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Here in the academy is to improve. So I'm gonna try a technique that I've been working on. Oh man, I need to see his reaction, and then, oh, okay, now I can adjust my technique, you know. Or you show me your technique, and like, oh, I give you the reaction, then you can adjust, you know. So we both improve that way.
One last question, Professor. What advice would you give to people who are just starting out their journey in jiu-jitsu? And you know, being a white belt is not the easiest thing, because you're getting mopped around with everybody and you're learning and you're in the low totem pole area. What is the advice that you give to people who are maybe sometimes will ask like, what am I doing getting beat up left and right here?
So as a white belt, just keep showing up. You know, this is a white belt that never quit. You know, just keep showing up, keep training, put the ego behind. You know, just keep showing up, keep training. You know, just take it all in, You know, and then one day you're gonna be there where you're like, you know, the next white belt that comes up, he's gonna feel the same way. But like the professors you have here, they understand the progress. You know, like I understand the progress because I was there before.
Yeah.
You know, so I like to, when they feel like, man, I don't want to be here, or this, that, I like to encourage them to keep training. You know, just keep training. You know, it's a progress, whether it's here on the mat or off the mat. You know, you'll see it everywhere. You know, you just need to just keep progressing. You know, because you never know, there might be that one person that kind of looks up to you and be like, oh, he's not training anymore, so man, I don't want to go. You know, so if you keep training, other people will see. You know, and it helps everybody stay together.
Awesome. Well, Professor Vipotz, you guys heard it from him. Wonderful guy, and definitely if you get a chance to roll with him, please take advantage of it, because it's a learning experience and I highly recommend it. So, Professor, an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Aloha.
Appreciate it. Aloha.